Welcome to Amaka Intellectual Factory, where I host podcasts and many other interesting stuff. So Russia recently hosted the 3 African countries that make up the Alliance of Sahel States in Moscow, and I wrote an article about it. Today, I'm gonna be reading a draft of that article, which I would be uploading on my website shortly after posting this video on YouTube. Russia's chess moves. Meets with AES, reinforcing ancient Hamitic Slavic partnership. Introduction. This move should be of concern to the non-Hamitic people in West Africa, not just Western Europe and the United States. As has historically been the case, moves of this nature soon led to conflict in the West African region. The connection between Hamites and Slavic people can be found in the Hamitic theory that was very popular in the 19th and 20th centuries. Part of the Hamitic theory states that Slavic people are indeed a Hamitic people. But with the occurrence of the 2 world wars came a decline in this type of intellectual discussions. It gave people who did not want a continuation of this discussion the opportunity to outrightly discredit the Hamitic theory. In spite of that, based off of my observations of Hamites and Slavic people and my study of historical antecedents, there is, without a shadow of a doubt, an ancient connection between Hamites and Slavic people. This would make for a good topic for another day. The meeting between AES and Russia. In an apparent chess move in geopolitics, Russia met with the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, in Moscow. The Alliance of Sahel States is made up of 3 Hamitic nations, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. This alliance is a defense pact among these nations that resulted from the crisis of the coup that took place in Niger in 2023. There was a growing dissatisfaction with the French from these Sahel nations, as well as other French-speaking West African nations. This led to the peaceful ousting of the then president of Niger, Mohamed Bazoum, and the forceful removal of French, American, and other Western presence in Niger. These 3 nations also formally withdrew their membership from the regional bloc, Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS. However, they turned to the Wagner Group, a Russian mercenary group for military support. The leader of the Wagner Group, Prigozhin, soon had a fallout with the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, over the Russia-Ukraine war. Shortly after this fallout, Prigozhin died in a plane crash which many have speculated was not a mere accident. The Wagner Group remains active in many African countries. In 2024, the Wagner Group in Africa was merged into a new Africa Corps under the direct control of Russia's Ministry of Defense. AES's lamentations at their meeting with Russia in Moscow. Well, in early April of 2025, AES met with the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, in Moscow. The Sahel nations lamented the Western influence in their region and their desire to dismantle it. They said they wanted to prioritize their people's security and cultural identity over foreign agenda. Russia's response to AES's lamentations. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov had a lot to say in response to AES's frustrations at what they called Western influence on their region and people. In response, Lavrov praised the Union of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger as the beacon of Africa's awakening. He said they were leading a revolution of dignity against neocolonialism. Lavrov condemned what he called the desperate efforts of former colonial powers and their allies to destabilize the Sahel. Lavrov specifically accused Ukraine as a proxy force for Western interests, that the Kiev regime, with the full backing of its allies in NATO, had funneled resources to terrorist groups plaguing the Sahel. These efforts are not just destabilizing, they are a direct assault on Africa's sovereignty. Lavrov emphasized Russia's unwavering commitment to AES, pledging advanced military training, intelligence sharing, and logistical support to bolster AES's security forces. Because, unlike Western forces, Russia does not impose itself on Africa, that their partnership is rooted in mutual respect and a shared vision for a multipolar world. Lavrov highlighted Russia's collaboration with Belarus and other allies to create a security shield for the Sahel, contrasting it with the failed interventions of France and the United States. My analysis of the AES and Russian meeting in Moscow. Lavrov praising the AES as leading a revolution of dignity against neocolonialism immediately raised red flags for me. This type of hypnotic language is what I have come to the realization was behind the coups that rocked Africa in the 60s and 70s. This type of hypnotic language is what indoctrinated the first coup plotters of Nigeria, and it is what that has fueled the destabilization of West Africa and Africa at large. There is always the concern of foreign so-called intelligence to one African country, claiming that another African country is planning to harm them in some way, leading to war between those two African countries. Like how Niger kept on accusing Nigeria of trying to assist the French in an invasion or attack of Niger shortly after the Niger coup of 2023. Where did Niger get that intelligence report from? The death of Prigozhin, the former leader of the Wagner Group, a Russian mercenary group, after he fell out with Putin, should tell you a lot about how bloody Russia and Eastern Europeans play politics. All is good in the hood until the knives come out. Now, I'm wondering, how would Russia handle a fallout with AES? And how would that fallout impact West Africa? African leaders need to learn how to start asking these types of questions every time a group of African countries make this type of commitment to themselves and to non-African countries. This is how we know the necessary actions to take to not only prevent an outbreak of war, but to also protect ourselves from the outbreak of war. Conclusion. It is no longer wise for African leaders to overlook this type of meetings and commitments made by groups of African countries to non-African countries. Such commitments expose other Africans to violence, death, and detrimental foreign policies. Neither is it wise for the United States to undermine the threat of Russia's control and manipulation of military and mercenary activities on the African continent. I can only conclude that Russia made this move because it appears that Africa does not weigh too heavily on the mind of the Trump administration. While President Trump has made no secret of his American First commitment, the Trump administration has also made it clear that America First does not mean America alone or America only. President Trump wants world peace. He emphasized that in his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States. The military campaign of his administration, despite being lethally successful, has an end goal of world peace. I am also for world peace. Peace in Nigeria, West Africa, and Africa at large. The normalization of war in our world simply can no longer hold water. Not with the expansion of the military-industrial complex and proliferation of deadly weapons. Africa must have a binding law or policy where African countries that make these types of commitments to non-African countries make even stronger commitments to the rest of Africa through the African Union, that they would not allow their relationship with non-African countries bring war and instability to any part of Africa. A peaceful Africa and a peaceful world at large is simply non-negotiable. That's the end of my article. So what do you think? You're always welcome to comment down below and share your thoughts with me. Well, that's all I have to say for now. Until next time, take care of your lovely selves. And remember, life is beautiful and worth living.